My name is CHAWATAMA, and I joined UFIC 2010. Back then, I was not a really strong Christian, and I never used to take my walk with Christ seriously. But when I started to listen the teachings of Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa and applying them into my life, that's when I started seeing change. I used to get favored, even at work, that I did not even understand. I have a nursing background by profession, and I also did paramedic, so I was also an emergency medical technician. So when I started working, my management or my bosses always used to favor me, which I did not understand. There was a time I was asked to join a medical service for ambulances, and they asked me actually to work for them whilst I was staying at home. In other words, they were paying me whilst I was staying at home so that I would not work for any other company. This was a shock because I had never had never heard of any company that makes somebody stay at home and pay them for 8 months just so that they will not go and work for anyone. So from then, I started then officially working there when everything was in full operational because it was a new company. But like that was not enough. Whilst I was doing my training, I've met somebody else who was there, who was opening also an international hospital. So after I'd finished my training, they looked for my credentials, they looked for where I was working, and then they visited my boss, trying to recruit me at their hospital, which was actually a 5-star hospital at that time. So my boss came and told me that one of the managers of this institution were looking for me, and they said they wanted me to work for them. And I was like, why? Out of all the people, why did they have to choose me? And then they were like, we don't know, just go and find out. So my manager then gave me a wrong number because she also didn't want me to leave there. I tried for 2 weeks trying to get hold of them. And then I finally went there personally. And then they were like, could you please bring in your CV? I went and told my management that I'd finally gotten the place where this lady was looking for me. When I got in there, the interview was not even like an interview. It was like all talk. It wasn't even that serious. And most of the stuff that she was asking me were the things that we actually had talked about previously. I went and worked there as well. And also, to my disbelief, they were also saying they would pay me for 2 months again for training without me doing anything. But life became very difficult and tough beginning of 2012. The hospital was about to close down. It was closed down February 2012. That's when I lost my job. And at the same time, in June, that's when my father also passed on. And he was, at that moment, because I wasn't working anymore, our pillar of, or source of finances. From there, everything became hard, but I never lost hope, because every time the man of God, Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa, would preach as if he's talking to me, as if he knew exactly what I was going through, as if he knew exactly what my family was going through. And then 6 months down the line, soon after our crossover, I got a call from one of the industrial clinics, and then they said they just wanted a nurse who was going to be doing part-times over the weekends. I spent the whole of 2013 working weekends, and my salary, to my shock, it was almost the same as those who were working all the time 24/7 in a hospital. All of a sudden, they decided that they were also closing down the industrial site because they were saying that they were downsizing in the industry. I was then starting to ask myself, God, why is it that everywhere that I go, every company tries to close? So by then, there was this man that we used to work with at this hospital. He sent me an email saying there's a private school that needs a school nurse. I just went there saying, God of Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa, if only you can get me this, because I've been through a lot ever since my father passed away. After that, I went there. The headmaster also started talking to me, and I didn't even know that was the interview. The only last thing he mentioned whilst I was leaving was, so let me show you your house. Let me show you where you're going to be staying. And I was like, oh, I've already gotten the job. After that, I stayed there for almost a year, but I wasn't satisfied because that's not where I really wanted to be. I've always wanted to be in the pharmaceutical industry, and that was my passion. So even when I started that job at the private school, I told him that I'm actually passing. I don't want to stay. There are other things that I want to do. But all this, it was only because I got teachings of not being satisfied to be at one place, and also not being satisfied with always having low salaries. So from there was a service that Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa had about finances, where he said, I want everyone to write the maximum amount that they have ever been paid or that they've ever held. So to me, I took it seriously, and I was like, God, I don't ever want to have little money anyway, anyhow. And then at that same time, he mentioned about passports, and he was like, some of you are going to be traveling, like you are boarding buses. I just received that word for me. So beginning of towards end of 2014, I had a friend of mine who was doing the same. And I always used to tell her how I loved her job. But I didn't know at the same time that she also, with that job, she also used to travel a lot. So she said, you can always just give me your CVs, and then I'll give them to whomever I see in the field or whomever I see in that market. And then I submitted my CVs to her. Only in March, when I was called by an international company for an interview, they called me. I submitted my credentials. I called my friend and I told her that some international company just called me saying that they wanted to interview me. Then I was not settled because I was thinking at the back of my mind that I only have a medical background, and for this job you'd want to have marketing, you'd need, because most of them are pharmacists, most of them are biochemists, and I was only a nurse with only a paramedic background. So I went there, and then all I had as my confidence were the links at that time that Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa was sending to us, that do not be comfortable. Do not be comfortable in one place. You should get out of your comfort zone because God is about to do something. Because I was already comfortable where I was staying. So when I went there, I think I was the only nurse there. Most of them were doctors, most of them were pharm techs, most of them were pharmacists, and biochemists. When they told me that I got the job, I couldn't believe it, because I had applied also at another international company at that same time, and they told me that you have too much of a medical background. We need somebody maybe who has a marketing background as well. So when they told me I had the job, I couldn't believe it. I went back to where I was working and I told them that I gave them a month's notice. And then they asked me, why are you leaving? And I was like, remember when I came here, I told you that I am not staying for long because there's something that I've always been passionate about that I wanted to do. And this is it. I think God has opened a door for me. So they actually refused to let me go. And then they started offering me even more money than where I was going. But I said no. When I left, the first time I got there, they gave me my contract. To the shock, it was actually twice or even more than twice of what I was earning at that time. The first 2 weeks, my manager at that time said, we're going to Namibia. And I was like, but I don't even know anything about the products that I'm going to be selling. And then it was, no, it's okay. You're actually going for training there. After 4 years of not even knowing what a flight is like, I was on my way to Namibia. And then from there, I started boarding flights almost every month all over Africa for trainings, for conferences, just as the men of God had declared. I couldn't believe this because every time we would travel, we would go to 5-star hotels. I would change menus out, everything that I'd never tried out. I would actually try it out because I wanted to see what it would taste like. At that time, every time I would be, whether in an airplane or even in a fancy hotel, even at our head office, because our head office is in South Africa, I would only think of the words that the man of God had declared. I would only think about what he was saying. And not only that, but daily he would lead me, because every time I would even read the life lighter or even the spiritual link, it would have something to do with what was going on with me that day or that week. So I would like to thank God, and I would like to thank Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa and Prophetess Ruth Makandiwa for what they've done for me. Even the way I dress, it has even completely changed, because I was a jeans and sweater person. Even coming to church, I would come wearing jeans. But with the help of Prophetess Ruth Makandiwa, she taught us from how to dress, how to appear, how to present ourselves well in front of people. And even my prayer life changed from there. I never knew how to speak in tongues properly. I'm now able to even speak with other languages, heavenly languages. So I'd like to thank God for the prophets, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am right now. If it wasn't for their covering, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting right now. Even with my medical background as a nurse, the miracles that I've seen happening at UFIC, they are just unexplainable. I cannot just understand with some of the things that I've seen how somebody can even get healed instantly with the things that I have seen, even in the hospitals that I have worked. I serve in the information department. And sometimes when I'm writing testimonies and I'm writing miracles and I'm writing the healings that are happening, I am amazed, because I've not seen that anywhere. I've not seen it happening in hospitals. I've not seen it happening anywhere else, but I've seen it happening with my own eyes at UFIC. I'm amazed at the level of transformation of people's lives at UFIC. Just by a word, somebody can see. Just by a word, theater or an operation is stopped. Just by a word, lives are already being changed. I'm amazed at even not him saying anything, but just looking at someone and something happens. That, for me, is already life-changing and transforming. So looking at my life, and even at my career, back then, there was only death wherever that I would work. But life was breathed into my career, and they actually moved me from one place to another, because for 2 companies, I would work for them and they would close down. It was only 2 years ago where I would work at a company and it would still be there. And now I'm very satisfied and happy to be where I am. only because of their love and only because they have declared life into my life. For me to feel the love that they show me and that they give me as prophets, I don't need to be close to tell that they really love me or they really love us. With other places, you would actually have to be close with those people to tell that these people really care for you. But for me, at the distance that I am, I feel their love because I see it and it has worked for me, not only in my life, but also in the things that happen around me, even at UFIC. So I'd like to thank you, Mama and Baba, for the love that you show us and the love that you've given us. You have even taught us how to love one another, to honor our mother and to honor our father, to honor even any elderly person. That can only be taught by people who are already doing it. Thank you for showing us the way, and thank you for leading us and being very good examples, not only to the church, but to the world.